Hey, welcome to the world according to Larry, and I'm Larry. It's been about a year since we've had an episode of ZombieBread Men. Hopefully, when you watch this episode, you'll understand why. I filmed this last October and November. It's been a lot of work. I hope you enjoyed today's video. This is where the ZombieBread Men have come from. I would like to mention there is some graphic content in here, although the actors clearly are not feeling any pain. So I've been having some weird happenings around here. It's got me to thinking.
What do you mean by weird happenings?
So the first thing is the gingerbread men. I never made them before I moved into this house.
I wouldn't say that's weird. Maybe your tastes have changed and you're craving something different.
Yeah, that's possible. But it's a sudden desire, and it came out of the blue. And there's something weird about making them as well.
What is that? How could making gingerbread men be weird?
Every time I make a batch, I feel like I'm being watched. And one or two disappear. I've been making these for months now. And with the amount that have disappeared, you could fill a platoon.
So far, it feels like you just want to talk about something. Anything. Are you afraid of the Cookie Monster? Clearly that's your mother. She's taking them. She's famous for a sweet tooth, isn't she? Case closed.
That was my first thought. But after my mother was institutionalized for losing her mind, the gingerbread men kept disappearing.
Oh, sorry to hear about your mother, by the way. Maybe you have someone else living in your house.
That's what I'm afraid of.
What? One of your son's sleepovers that never left? Kick him out.
No, a ghost.
A ghost. You're serious. I thought you didn't believe in that kind of stuff.
A ghost witch, to be precise.
Ooh, a ghost witch to be precise. And how did you come up with that?
Going through my mother's stuff, I found a book all about the town. It tells the history of the town and the stories of the lives of the early inhabitants.
Now, does it say this house is haunted by a ghost? A ghost witch, to be precise?
This house is only 30 years old, but there's a dark story behind the land. Let me go get the book.
The hell? All of a sudden it's cold.
There it is. Braithneck Farm. In 1860, shortly before the Civil War would call up the men of New Hampshire, the land bordered on the north by the Kankakee River, the Sleeping Bear Rock Formation on the east, the Tuskegee Forest on the south, and the Concord Wagon Trail on the west, in all 1,000 acres, was known as the Braithneck Farm. Brandon and Dana Braithnack settled the land and farmed it. The Braithnacks first acquired the land in 1836. First, they timbered the land and sold the logs to the burgeoning railroads for railroad ties to build their very large farmhouse, which was located 500 feet north of the southernmost property line and 50 feet east of the Raccoon Brook, basically where the house is right now. Brandon and Dana had 4 children, none of which survived to reach their first birthday. With the land cleared, Brandon started tilling the soil and began planting pumpkins and squash. The amount of land farmed increased, and Brandon took on hired hands and migrant farm workers. He put them up in the large farmhouse. Dana was known in the village center for her gingerbread cookies that she brought in fresh daily. And it's said that the farmhands who couldn't tend the fields on a given day claimed that while Brandon was out tending the fields, she would practice dark arts. The farm suffered from a wolf or coyote problem because at least once a week a chicken or goat would disappear. Farming in the Granite State is much harder than farming on the flatlands of the Midwest, which had opened up, and the Braithnacks struggled to make ends meet, competing with flatland farms. Now there's a section on folklore. This is where it gets creepy. Brandon felt an obligation to the farmhands and their families. He did his best to support them, but as crops got smaller, more farmhands were around the house and not out in the field. This caused a lot of friction between Brandon and Dana. The friction continued to escalate until Brandon died in a freak accident involving a horse-drawn plow. Dana immediately decided to evict the farmhands and their families and essentially turn them out into the cold as winter was approaching. The head farmhand, who was known only by the name of Beatty, pleaded with Dana to keep the farm alive, but to no avail.
Excuse me, ma'am? Ma'am? Ma'am?
What do you want? No, I don't like to be disturbed during my prayer time.
My apologies for interrupting your prayer time. It is terrible the loss of Mr. Braithnack. He was an honorable man. All his hands loved him.
I know you all loved him, but he's gone now. Do you understand? He's gone. And you all must leave. You must leave now.
But, Dana,
How dare you be so casual with me?
ma'am, let us continue the farm. We have enough hands to continue the farm.
There are too many hands with too many mouths. Why my husband insisted on keeping a flock of people always riled me. I want the hands out of my house.
But ma'am, winter is coming. There are children and women among us. Where are we to go? We are so hungry. What are we to do?
What you do, where you go, how you feed yourselves, your women, your children, it's no concern of mine.
Ma'am!
Go. You and all your hungry mouths like a bird's nest in the spring. Get out of my house.
Mr. Braithnack would want the farm to continue. Please.
Oh, now you know what my husband would want? He would want another man to run his farm? Do you expect to put on his slippers? Do you expect to sleep in his bed?
No, ma'am. I didn't say that. I didn't mean that. I am thinking about the children. Mr. Braithnack would think about the children. They're starving.
I don't give a damn about the children. They're not my children. I have no children. My husband is dead.
For the love of God, ma'am, have a heart. Maybe if you prayed differently, your husband and your children would still be here.
I'll take you up on your offer. For the love of whose God? Now leave. You take your flock and you leave tonight, and you better make some distance. I'm going into town in the morning, and I'm going to get the sheriff, and I'm going to tell them how you're trying to steal my husband's property and live his life and take advantage of his grieving widow, including crawling into her bed. You are no different than a horse thief, and they're going to hang you. Now leave.
You better not.
Leave!
What offer?
A heart. You offered me a heart.
Dana was not interested in hearing his pleadings and grew impatient and demanded he leave, only for him to return later that day. Her head, and only her head, was found at the bottom of the hill. Legend has it that Beatty butchered her and fed her to the starving farmhands that night. Later that night, the house burned to the ground, and all the farmhands and their families perished in the fire.
Thanks, Mr. Beatty. This stew is delicious. It's great to have a warm meal.
Yes, Mr. Beatty, thank you. My young ones send their gratitude too.
It's good.
You're all very welcome, but you should be thanking Lady Braithnack. She made this meal possible. She put her everything into this stew.
I would like to thank her. Where is she?
She's gone into town to get more supplies for the farm.
Does that mean we can stay?
Yes, we can stay here till we die.
How did you change your mind?
I just told her how hungry we were. I laid out that problem, and then I just took it piece by piece. And in the end, she's feeding us.
Here's to the Braithnacks. Here's to the Braithnacks.
Here's to you, Daniel.
But there was something odd about this fire. There was a strong wind that night, and as the fire burned, the wind carried away the structure essentially. The ashes, embers, chunks of burning house were all blown into the empty field where Brandon had died. Also, what was odd was that although this was a very large house with bedrooms on the second floor, which the farmhands were accustomed to sleeping in, all of the bodies were found lying on the floor of the ground floor. All in the same position. Everybody was flat on their backs, face forward, arms stretched out and legs slightly open. The county coroner said it looked like a tray of gingerbread men. Beatty's body was different though. His body was the only body found face down, and his body continued to have tremors for a couple of days after the fire. Because of these post-mortem tremors, they performed an autopsy on Beatty. When the coroner did the autopsy, he could not find a heart inside Beatty's body. But there was no apparent incisions into Beatty's chest. 13 souls were laid to rest in paupers' graves. The forest took back the land, the trees returned, as did the wildlife. To look at it today, you would never know that this was a farm, except for the stone walls and enduring artifacts. The land was held by the state until 1986, when it was parceled out to build new houses for a growing population and tax revenue.
That's quite some story. Why don't you get the hell out of Dodge?
Like you said, I don't believe in this hocus pocus. At least I haven't until now. Is it a coincidence about the gingerbread man? Did I hear something? Did I read this previously and now it's implanted in my brain and I think things are going on? Am I eating them and I can't remember? Is it the dogs? I don't know.
I don't know. That's some spooky stuff to me. I gotta get going though. Thanks for dinner.
Well, I'm so glad you can make it.
Well, he's doomed.
Oh. Oh. What the? I feel baked. Last thing I remember, I was eating stew. Come on, Joey. Get your stuff together. Zoe! Zoe! Wake up! Wake up!
Huh? What? Where am I? Do you remember a fire?
I just remember having a full belly for the first time in a very long time.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Get up! We gotta go! We gotta go! Do you think you can jump down?
Oh, that seems awful high.
We have no choice. 1, 2, 3. Jump!
What? 2 missing already. What could they be? Ow! Ow!
Mama.
Mrs. Braithnack?
been experiencing The World According to Larry, and I'm Larry, and this is my world. If you enjoyed today's video, like it, give it a thumbs up, share it. I'd love to hear your comments, and I would really appreciate it if you subscribe. Until next time, I'm in my world.